with FortiGate devices. What we're going to start talking about today in this slide deck, in this video, is we're going to do some device level configuration installation. So we've talked a lot about provisioning, getting a device on the FortiManager, different, a little bit about HA, different templates and serial numbers and connectivity and all that other fun stuff. And that's great. Now, some of you guys that are in the field, you're not going to do that. You're going to sit down and this is what you're going to start doing right here, configuring the actual devices on the FortiManager. You're tasked with doing this. Now, in the certification, you're going to need to know all the different aspects, but in practical, some of you, this is really where you're going to start. This is your foot in the door. This is your first way of doing things. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about some different device level settings. We're going to talk about how the FortiGate configuration status and synchronization works between the FortiManager and the FortiGate, how we can push changes from the FortiManager to the FortiGate, look at our revision history for diagnosing and troubleshooting, configure and install scripts on managed devices for those that use scripting, and understand device groups for simplifying management of FortiGate devices. And we'll talk about that here soon. So let's get started. Device level settings can be viewed or configured for individual managed devices. Now, remember, this whole time we talk about ADOMs and shared databases and shared objects and potential individual policy packages for different devices and things along that lines. Well, what we're talking about here is device level settings for individual managed devices. So we can manage these over on our FortiManager. Now, you can do this through CLI if you're a command line person. Now, a lot of what I've used CLI for is a lot of scripting type stuff. So we've used CLI, we've written scripts for our FortiGates to import, say, 50 new objects or whatever that we needed to import. We wrote a script and the script imported them for us all at once. And you can do that type of stuff inside the FortiManager. However, it is disabled by default. You actually have to turn that capability on to configure through the CLI. So you can enable under your display options. You'll configure it there. VDOMs. Here we go. This is where we start to get into stuff. So remember, we talk about ADOMs, administrative domains. And inside of your administrative domains, you have shared policy, things on that lines. Inside of your administrative domains, you have your virtual domains, your VDOMs. So your VDOMs, if we look here, you can add VDOMs to manage FortiGate from Device Manager. So your Device Manager, which we saw over in the demo, this is where all this is done. So if you look in the real middle, config status, synchronized auto update pending, modified out of sync conflict unknown. So over on the left, what do we have? We have indicates whether a managed FortiGate configuration is changed into the device database. And over on the right, we see admin can take actions based upon the status and install changes. So if we look here, we look what we're talking about. We have our config status of modified and auto updated. And we have our config status of synchronized, out of sync, and unknown. So what we're talking about here is over on the left. We're talking about our device manager. Over on right, we see our FortiGate device itself. So we're taking our configs from the left over on the device manager and pushing them over to the right over the FortiGate device itself. That's how this slide is set up. So if you start to look at it and basically look about 2/3 of the way from on the right to the left is your device manager, and then over on from the 2/3 to the full side on the right is your FortiGate device itself. So think about what we're doing here. So let's just talk through this. On your device manager, you have your device level database, you have your revision history database, and you install that over to the FortiGate. This is where you look at your config status on your device manager. It's either been modified or it's auto updated. Now that config status is when it checks with the FortiGate, it says, hey, we're either synchronized, that what you have on your side is what I have on my side. Or it says what you have on your side is out of sync of what I have on my side. Or the final is, hey, we don't know. We can't get confirmation either way. So we just put it as an unknown status. So you can push from over on the left on the device manager through your revision history database to install on the FortiGate. Now, on the FortiGate, you can retrieve your data. They can do what they call an auto update back into your device manager. So say someone managed a device, went onto the FortiGate itself and made a change. Well, you want that change to be over on your device manager, so the FortiGate can actually do what they call an auto update to the device manager. So start to think of the flow and start looking here, and you can start seeing this is how all these connect and interact with each other, because this is extremely important, because this is how you will configure devices from your device manager on your FortiManager. The device manager is a tab on the FortiManager, and this was how you will push things down to the FortiGate. Now here at the end, we'll jump over on the FortiGate, over on the FortiManager demo, and I'll show you where this is done. Now, your device status. Synchronized. We're good. Not a problem. You got what I think is in my revision history is what is on your configuration on the FortiGate. Out of sync, doesn't matter. We don't know. It is out of sync. What I have is different than what you have. Unknown, we looked at our revision history, we look at your FortiGate configuration, and we are just confused. Then we have what they call a conflict. The installation failed. This is where I see issues on the conflict a lot of times, is when people are updating different devices in different ways. So maybe somebody is on the device itself trying to make an update, at the same time somebody's on the FortiManager trying to make an update. I see this happen when there is some type of troubleshooting or incident happening. And because person A and person B aren't communicating with each other, you have a lot of out of sync and conflicts going on. Be mindful of this. Now, your device status, auto update, guess what? Was what we talked about. The configuration from the FortiGate has been pushed to the revision history of the device manager, and they're in full agreement. Auto update, we are happy. Modified, the FortiGate configuration has been updated, but guess what? The revision history is not matching. So we're not happy. And then you also have a modified where a recent auto update came in, but the revision history seems to be good, but the auto or the configuration on the database is not. So just different ways for it to look at it. Quite honestly, it can be quite challenging to be able to name each of these different status. But remember this, here's what you're looking for. You're looking for the auto update, and you're looking for when everything's green. That's what you're looking for. If they're not, now you have to start looking at why you have these conflicts. Why are things out of sync? Why are they not synchronized? Now, when you start doing this, what you're going to see here is you're going to get a preview. So when you put the configuration on the FortiManager, it is not on the FortiGate device. Our whole purpose FortiManager. You put it on the FortiManager first. You look at the preview of it. The changes are not installed on the FortiGate. Now, there are ways in this that you can stage a change, but you're not allowed to push the change until it is approved by a senior person. I see a lot of this in the real world for junior techs just getting into the field. You prep changes, you're doing great, but you just need a second set of eyes. As you get more senior, that restriction may be lifted for you, or you may end up being the person that's throwing the approvals. As experience will tell you, I see a lot of new people. Well, I shouldn't say new, but you have a SOC team that's maybe making changes, network team that's maybe making changes, and seniors that are approving these changes. Once you kind of have proven yourself, that change becomes a rubber stamp. They don't even check anymore. They just say, yes, you know what you're doing. They hit approve and off you go. But at any point, they can look at this and they can say, hey, here's what you're doing. I want to preview that change before it is committed to the firewall. Now, FMG tunnels, we've talked about these, right? This here, you can check on your tunnels. This is what you would do if you want to look at and say, okay, we've got these preview changes. We need to make sure that we have connectivity to our devices. So we want to go look at our session list. We want to go look at what devices we are connected to. Now, this one here, we look at it and it tells us the IP address, the uptime, and the link level address. So we see our serial number, our IP address, our uptime, and the state of our tunnel. This is our what they call our session count here. We see 1. Now, if you have multiple, you'll see multiple connectivities here. But this here says this FortiManager is connected to the local FortiGate serial number FGFM 12345678890, the IP address of 10.10.10.10. The status is the state tunnel is 169.254.02, and the uptime on this one was Monday, February 6th at 15:15:15, 2020 something, right? This here is how we would verify that our connectivity to the device itself is working, so that the config that we previewed has base connectivity to the device that we are trying to push down to. So the installation process, what we've done, we've previewed our change, we've verified our connectivity. So the way this works, the changes that are made in the device manager pane are made to the device database. They're not made to the firewall. A new revision is generated and changes are installed. The changes made from a policy and object pane, which is a different pane, are also made to the device database. Same concept. So if we look at the flow down at the bottom, changes from the policy and object tabs, they update the policy and object database. Changes made from the device manager tab, update the device manager tab. New revisions are into device manager revision history, and then that is installed to the FortiGate managed device. So if you look there, what are we doing? We're installing a policy package in device settings, and we can also set it up where we only set device settings. And then what that does is that updates our revision database, and then that database is pushed down to the FortiGate device itself. So left to right, we make the change on the FortiManager, updates to FortiManager database. We check it, we're good. Updates the revision history, that then is indeed pushed down to the device. So this is how it is all pushed down from the FortiManager to the device itself. This is why you can make changes and have them verified before they're pushed. This is why if there's any mistakes or potential last minute updates, they can be checked out. When you're new to an environment, I would highly recommend you have a new set of eyeballs, always checking over your changes. Rules themselves, maybe not so much, because if you mess up a rule and you put 10.10.12 versus 10.10.13, a new flow may not work. Routing changes and things like that, yeah, those definitely want it, because if you put a wrong routing change, you could potentially lock yourself out of your FortiGate devices, and that's not good. So you could bring the network down very quickly if those aren't correct. So just be mindful of the level of potential impact when you're making your changes when you do the review, because you want to make any errors that you potentially do, you want it on a FortiManager so that you can correct them before they are pushed down to the FortiGate devices themselves. Now there's 2 types of wizards. So device settings only. We're only going to set down device settings, and the policy and objects are not installed. So the policies and objects, your rules and stuff, are not being pushed down. This is only device level stuff, interfaces, routes, things on that lines, potentially passwords, things like that. Now, when you start doing your policy package, you're going to select the policy package that you're going to want to push down, whether it is an individual policy package for this individual firewall, maybe it's a shared policy package that you're pushing down. Who knows? I mean, it really depends on the setup that you're doing there, and any device specific settings associated with that package. So you can separate out either way of what you're going to push down to the device from the FortiManager. Now this here is just kind of a screenshot of what we're doing here. There's an install wizard that you can use. This here is install device settings only. So you see here, we have device settings only. We are not installing the policy package, as you see on the screenshot on the right. Device selection validation. This is what we are verifying that we're going to install these changes. So not only do you have the ability to look at the change, you're also going to ensure that, hey, this is a device that we are going to push this down to. Now you can select multiple devices if you would like, so that your change is pushed onto multiple devices. So maybe you're changing an object that used to be, maybe you're, as an example, maybe all of your devices used to connect up to Azure, and you used one FQDN to connect up to Azure. Well, throughout your environment, what they've done is they've created a new Azure connection, and this connection is for the new application that your customers are going to use. So what you've done is you've created a rule for testing for the new. Works great. Everybody's, all the testers are using it. All of the current customers are going to the old FQDN. So what you need to do now is change from the old, new one over to the old one. So what you can do is go in and say, we're going to change this old one, but we need to change this on all 15, pairs of firewalls. So you make the change and then you select all 15 pairs and it pushes it down to all. And now everybody goes to the new FQDN. Just as an example. I mean, there's just a ton of different ways you can do that, but that's just one example of how you might want to do something like that. And it prepares a preview so that you can do this. You can look at, again, your multiple device selections. Your consolidated preview would do up to 10 devices. I guess not 15, but up to 10. You install, this indicates where the changes were installed, the status, and provides an install log. So this here is going to give you the ability to go through and verify everything of what has happened, how it was installed, are we successful, things along that lines, which goes back to what we talked about in the previous, where you're able to go into the logging and see, was this successful, was this bypassed, things along that lines, right? So you can develop device level changes without a wizard. However, if you don't use a wizard, there's no preview. So it's what they call a quick install. You basically go in, you say, hey, install this, have a nice day. There is no preview on that. So that's kind of a big difference between a quick install and the install wizard. Now, when you do this, this updates your revision history. Each revision history, all your configuration changes, there's a repository. Each of them have an ID number. So, and the ID number identifies which admin or process created the revision. So think about what we're doing here. This is saying that, hey, when there's something done, we create a new revision. Based upon this revision, we have an ID number. Based upon the ID number, we can go in and look at and verify who made this change. This is why you don't do shared passwords, shared admins, shared logins inside of anything in your environment. This way you can go track things down, not necessarily to hold people accountable, but in the event of there is any challenge, something goes sideways, you can reach out to that person and you can say, hey, what did you change? Right after you changed it, we lost connectivity to such and such. What did you change? This aids in troubleshooting. Again, this is not to point people out, throw them under the bus, things on that lines. That's not the point here. The point is being able to troubleshoot anytime there is an issue. This environment, and when you're getting into troubleshooting and stuff, you have to be very transparent, because if you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, you can't solve it. So you need to be able to find out who did what quickly so that you can get in and maybe undo what they did, or maybe you need to make a change to accommodate their change. And quite honestly, that happens a lot. So what I mean by that is you're going to see this happen throughout your career. So you're going to get somebody in, they're going to make a change. The change they made, they did perfect. Hands down. No questions, no doubt. They didn't do anything wrong. They did exactly what they was tasked to do. However, here's the challenge. Environments are so big nowadays and so counterdependent upon each other that because you made a change over on A, it affected something over on D. And there was no way of knowing, because the environment is just so big, that the change on A was going to affect D. So when someone makes that change on A, you need to be able to go in and look at the revision and say, oh man, what happened? And go back and ask them, why did you change that? Because the immediate answer is, we need to fix the problem. So is A mission critical? Yes, it is. Well, then we have to go fix D to match A. If A is not mission critical, then you roll back what they did to get D back up and running. So that's really why you want to be able to have this, so that you can go in and troubleshoot and be very efficient in getting your customers back online as quickly as possible. So you can download the different versions. and do diff. I'm not sure if everybody here has ever done something like that, but you can get various software. You can pull the configs and do what they call a diff, a differential, and it will look at your two versions, and it will tell you exactly in there what changed. So there's no, I think I did this, or I'm not sure. It's very straightforward because you can pull the different versions, you can compare them, do a diff, see what's different, look at the logs, maybe something didn't log correctly or didn't install correctly, whatever the case may be, so that you can effectively troubleshoot and get the customer back and up and running as efficiently as possible. And I say efficiently because it needs to be secure no matter what you do. Your revision history in here, there's a summary. You can go look at all your revisions in here. And again, we'll jump over to Device Manager here right at the end of the lab here. Configuration issues. We retrieve a configuration on a managed device. We can automatically update the FortiManager from the FortiGate. The install configuration changes from the FortiGate after modifying the FortiManager. So again, conflict, right? We can revert to a previous working config. There you go, right there. Can't get a hold of the person made change, just revert it. We can import a config from local computer. So what you're going to see here is anytime, especially major changes, you always make an offline backup. And you make that offline backup so in the event of a catastrophic issue that you can go in and import your config from a local computer where you offloaded that config. So you can do this and, well, what they say here, you can import files that are downloaded from a FortiManager, otherwise import will fail. Well, what they're saying here is you have to get the file from a FortiManager so that you can import the config. So this is, you save it from FortiManager to a local device, and then you can import it. Do this on all major changes. This needs to be part of your standard operating procedure for every major change that you make. First thing you do is you log in, export the config. Plain and simple. Offload it off your device. In the event of an emergency, you have that to revert back to. When you retrieve, you want to check your current configuration on device, which updates the revision repository. So what they're talking about here is being able to go out and say, okay, what is on your device? We need to pull that config. So we will look at the firewall policy and objects retrieved. Device Manager will update the database to the new version. We will have a new version we built in the FortiGate from the FortiGate running config, and then the FortiGate managed device running config will be retrieved. So basically what we're saying here is we want to go out and connect. We want to make sure that we have our configs. We want to make sure that we're retrieving the configs from the FortiGate device itself over onto the FortiManager. Automatic update you can disable automatic update for the FortiManager CLI. It's default enabled. If it's disabled, you can accept or reject changes. So what they're saying here is it's enabled. So anytime something is updated on the FortiGate device directly, it is pushed back up to the FortiManager. You can disable the auto update by looking in here at config system, admin settings, and settings auto update disable. Reverting changes. So we talked a little bit about, auto updating the configs, pushing the configs. Well, we want to revert stuff sometimes. So what we want to do is be able to go in and say, hey, look at the history. We want to back a change out. Now, usually the top reversion corresponds to the database, but you can revert to any previous revision in the database. So you can go look at your list and you can revert it. Now, this does not revert policies and objects. You must import policies and objects. So it's not 100% reverting stuff. So you must install reverted changes on the FortiGate. So what you're doing is you're looking to revision history and you're saying, we changed these routes or whatever. Let's take this revision history and let's make it the current. And we will push it to the device. We'll push it back to the device. We'll revert that change. However, and so we install it back on the FortiGate. However, any of our objects that we created or we changed, that does not change. That is a separate entity with your, your objects in your database there, your policy and objects. It's a whole separate discussion there. This is why you want to have backups of your configs on a regular basis. Scripting. This is fun for you people that enjoy that type of stuff. Have fun. So you can make multiple changes. You can provision devices. You can automate config changes. You can do bulk changes to maintain consistency. This is where I've used scripting for your bulk changes. This is your CLI. They have what they call TCL, a tool command line, and this is TCP can be enabled on the FortiManager CLI, which is really just a FYI type thing there. But what you got to do is go into the system admin settings and you enable it. Once you enable it, you can actually set up and connect via SSH. You cannot run scripts through the FGMN tunnel. You got to SSH to authenticate and implement. So you have to be able to SSH into your device, get a command line prompt, and from a command line prompt, you can run your scripts. I see this all the time, especially for bulk changes. This is where I see it used majority of the time, bulk changes. Practice, use complete command syntax, what they're talking about here. So you can use CON, ROU, STAT. It will work. But the real command is config router static for static route. You get the little pound symbol there. This is for a remark. This is for commenting and documentation. So if you're going to run a script, what you do there is you write the script, but when you write the script, you put comments in there. So if I'm going to come behind you and approve your script, that I can read it pretty easily, and there is comments in there so I know exactly what you're doing so that I can be a second set of eyeballs and be in agreement with you that the script is indeed going to work, not cause any issues, and we can implement the script effectively. You can run scripts on your device database, your policy packages. You can run this on your device databases, your policy packages, your ADOM databases. Right? By default, scripts can run on the device database. You can select advanced filters to restrict the scripts. That's what they're talking about there. So you can restrict it. You can open up pretty much whatever you want. Most places restrict it. I've seen scripts that's basically set there so you can do bulk uploads of like different objects and things along that lines, so that you can put them in FortiGate and then push them over to the FortiManager themselves. See that done quite a bit. So this here, again, what are we looking at? Scripts. So over on the left, we have our global policies. We have our policies and objects, ADOM level, global level type stuff. And then in the middle, we have our device manager. So same as before, we update our policies and our ADOMs and stuff. We update our device manager, and then that pushes it over to the FortiGate itself. Now you can run the scripts on your policy package and ADOM database. You can run the scripts on the device database, and you can run the scripts on a remote FortiGate directly. So that's what they're showing here, is the ability to jump in and write a script on any one of those levels. So if you write it over on the policy and objects on the ADOM, it pushes it down to the device manager. And then from the device manager, you push it to the FortiGate, just like you would a normal install. If you write it over on the device manager, then it's pushed to the FortiGate, just like a normal install. And then you have the ability to write it directly to the FortiGate. And if you do, then the FortiManager will get an auto update from the FortiGate that this has been done. So what we're trying to show you here is wherever you put the script in here, how the flow is going to work so that you understand what you're doing with your script, whether you're writing it to your device manager and this could push it to the FortiGate, whether you're going to write it directly to the FortiGate, which is what I have done a lot. And then that is going to be pushed back to the FortiManager with the auto update. I just find that pushing it directly to the FortiGate itself has been what we have done commonplace. Some of you guys and gals on this watching this video may go, hey, we do it over on the device manager. Hey, that's great. That's awesome. Everybody does it differently. There is no real better or worse type mentality. It's just, what do you guys do? What does your organization support? Running and scheduling scripts, you can run a script now, or you can schedule it. So you can schedule a script to run at a certain time. So I've done a lot of this where what we've done is you typically will have shifts. Your night shift will be your team that does implementations and stuff like that. So what we've done is during the day is we've created the scripts and we've prepped everything. We've ran it and we've got it approved. We've gone through the change control process. It's been vetted by another tech. It's been staged and it's going to run at a certain time. So you set this up, and then the guys at night just kind of get in and verify that everything worked. They check that it worked and there's no conflicts or anything that we saw before. So on the scripts, you have now, and you can schedule it, and install must be performed the script run on a device database policy package ADOM. We already know this, right? You can clone, export, and import scripts from a local computer. There you go. You can write them on your desktop. Schedule cannot be used on scripts with the target policy package or ADOM database. So can't be doing it there. So this is here. We show our schedule script enable. We enable it command line. Now to troubleshoot this stuff, again, here's our debugging again. Diagnose debug application depth manager 255 and diagnose debug enable. So common error. Misspelled keyword or incorrect command format. This is going to get you, especially at the beginning. Check your script. Because what you're going to see is you got a period where it's supposed to be a comma. All these other different things, just this is where the second set of eyes come in. Because you're going to write something, it's going to look great, you're tired, and you got the I before the E, or the E before the I, or whatever the case may be. This is where your second set of eyes come in. You really want to be able to look at it and understand that you misspelled something. Previous line of the script was not executed, so you need to look at your script output. Why wasn't it executed? What happened? Problem at the end of the script? Because you know it's end statement. So your scripts will need an end statement so that they can sync. If there's no end statement, it kind of just sits there. It's the 30-second clock is never run out. It's just constantly, and everybody's kind of standing around going, what's next? And that's what the FortiGate is doing. That it will say, hey, there was no end here. We are not in sync because we have not been told that we're finished so that we can sync up. There should be no punctuation at the start or end of lines other than the pound sign there so that you can do a remark. You can review all the details from a script history. You can look at your task monitor. Event logs. If the debug level is set to debug. If the debug level is not set to debug, you will not get information in your event logs. Well, I can't say you won't get any information, but you won't get enough information typically to troubleshoot. So you have to set your debug level set to debug so that stuff shows up in the event log so that you can effectively troubleshoot. Some of your useful commands that you're going to see: clean and schedule, right? So you're unable to just delete schedule scripts. So you can go in and get rid of that. Copy, so you copy scripts between ADOMs, because remember, again, each ADOM are separate. They don't share things. However, you can copy from one to another. So you don't share things other than like a global policy potentially. You can list all your ADOMs. You can show your logs. This is a big thing right there. Show your run script log for a device. What happened? This is what you need to do. You need to show log, the script, or the device name, I should say. It will show you what scripts run on it. And from there, you can try to go out and troubleshoot. So this is just initial configuration, guys. This is nothing crazy. Quite honestly, this is about as in-depth as a lot of you will get, other than adding policies. And we're going to show that in the next slide, Deb. But you just kind of understand how the device level configuration goes, whether you're configured on the ADOM, the device manager, the FortiGate device itself, how it pushes data back and forth, whether it's a push from the revision history to the FortiGate device, or whether you're getting an auto update from the FortiGate device back. Really depends. You can use your revision history for diagnosing and troubleshooting. You can do different types of scripting. And you can do different types of device groups for simplification of your management process. Well, with that, guys, thanks for stopping out. Look forward to talking to you in the next slide deck. All right, guys, so let's wrap this up. What we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to jump over and on the demo real quick, and we'll show you some of the different things that we've been talking about. So let's jump over on the demo. All right, so we're back on the same demo page as always, and we will log in. Demo. There's our login for the 40 manager. All right, somebody cue some great music. All right, so we'll go into a database, go into our device manager, and this is what we're talking about. Here's our devices. So these are devices that we're connecting to. This one here is our device. If we want to add devices into here, there is our add device, which we talked about. This is how we do device groups. We create new device groups. And these are different settings that are configured inside of our device that we push down from the device manager. So remember we said when we started pushing stuff down that we pushed things down and you didn't need to push down a policy, but you'd push down like device settings. This is what we're talking about. So if you push down like device settings, you're just pushing down this type of information. Your interfaces and things like that. You're not actually pushing down your policy, because your policy is outside the device manager. Your policy is here in your policy and objects. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide. But what we're talking about here is over on the device manager. This is why it's separate. This is why through the whole time you've been seeing device manager and it's been talking about these things here. And when you're talking about rolling back and things along that lines, it did not roll back the policies and stuff, because that is not part of the device manager. That is a separate database. So I just wanted to kind of show you that and walk through this and show you why we said they were different and how they are different. Because like the VPN, your system settings, your administrators, your profiles, all this is separate than your policies and objects. And we're going to get into policies and objects inside of the next demo and the next slide deck. But I just want to kind of wrap this up and show you the difference here. So give you some context of why the slides were the way they were, referencing the device manager. But with that, guys, thanks for stopping out, and we will talk to you guys soon.